Welcome back to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. And, it's Independence Eve. No better time to reflect on our progress and challenges as a nation in the last 64 years. And some would say that Nigeria is the giant of Africa, that if Nigeria gets it right, the whole of Africa will get it right. So what is Nigeria doing, or what is Nigeria not doing that it is supposed to be doing? An important conversation to have, and a timely one at that. So joining us to have this conversation this morning is Mr. Linus Okore, who is a leadership consultant. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning.
And thank you for rising to the occasion, challenging as it is at this time of the day.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we start off, where leadership is concerned, that seems to be time and again the challenge that Nigeria has. What are we missing? What is Nigeria supposed to be doing that it is not doing currently?
So everything rises and falls on leadership. And so for many years, all what we did in this country is complain about the leadership deficits, and there was little investment in the leadership development of Nigerian citizens, over time, so that Nigerians, you have a critical mass of people that have the right leadership mindsets, the right leadership judgment, the right competencies, so that when they are thrown or they have opportunities to lead, they will be able to lead based on the qualities that they have imbibed over the years. So what that means is that if we do not invest in leadership development in primary, in secondary, in universities, and there's no special vehicle institution that is designed specifically to continuously develop leadership capital for this country, then what we'll see will be confusing leadership positions to leadership competencies. So in that context, we won't be able to make the type of progress that we're supposed to make. Because if I talk about leadership from the concept of the definition itself, according to Dr. Miles Monroe, he defines leadership as the ability to influence, motivate, drive a group of people towards a particular direction via inspiration, not intimidation or manipulation. And if you run down this definition across businesses, families, communities, basically, you want to see, what are those competencies that will help an individual to gain influence, right? Is when the individual places humans very high in his metrics, right? In his sense of judgment. Human beings are important. Then I invest in human beings around me. So when I'm compassionate and I add value to human beings that are around me, I make sure that their lives are better. I make sure that, they have capacity to become the best that they can ever be. I help them to become more, right? In the process of doing that, what happens is that people begin to respect me based on the way I've treated them, over time. And so when people look at me and they see vision, they see direction, right? I show them the way to go. I show them direction. I show them faith in themselves. And there's a clear direction of where you're taking them to. So what happens is that people develop confidence over time. Then your activities around them have shown trust. They have shown commitment, have shown, so these are some of the things that help people develop. So that's why certain people who don't even occupy public positions in the communities, people look towards them for leadership because of who they have become rather than what they have been doing in that context.
So those are ideals that Nigeria seemingly is not lacking in their leaders. Some would say that the late MK Abiola was the best president Nigeria never had. And some would also say that former premier of the Western region had a missed opportunity, to lead Nigeria. He would have transformed Nigeria. Those were the things that we heard as we grew up. So if we begin to look at our electioneering process, the practicalities now, what are we missing that would ensure that that process produces the right kinds of leaders that would interpret the vision and would trickle down to every other subset in our national life?
So when you talk about electioneering, I want you to talk about the local government in, elections. I want to talk about the gubernatorial elections, the state house of assembly elections, and national assembly elections. All of that, including the presidential elections, all of that constitute a process. Now, the most important thing, no matter the document that is signed, that this is how the process should run, if you have human beings who drive those processes, who are in charge and have the responsibilities of making sure that the right things are done, if those human beings don't show leadership, right? If they don't take responsibility, if they don't do what is right, if they don't lead accordingly, guess what happens? We won't get the right type of leaders across board. Now, the people who are to make decisions themselves, who are to vote, in this process of these elections, if they are controlled by stomach infrastructure, which is, current thinking of their situation, right? So we are poor, therefore we'll make the wrong decisions, right? We'll collect money and vote for the wrong people. Those kinds of things. You need people. That's why I said you need an investment in the self-confidence of the people across this country, the Rural Leadership Development Program, where the young people at those community level can see themselves as leaders. So which means that despite of the hunger they face, that they have a one-time opportunity to transform their lives by ensuring that they delay gratification. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And ensure that they are voting right. And the middlemen, who rock these people, who control these people literally, would have to begin to also think beyond themselves, right? That listen, if we get it right in enthroning leadership capital across the right set of leaders who are compassionate, leaders who are visionary, leaders who have competencies and capacity, who have the resources to make things happen. Now, these people literally will be bestowed upon the future of our country if these young people who are the grassroots, right, understand their responsibilities, in that context. So I want to be able to see where you have a lot of people come out. There's no voters apathy, because if there's voters apathy in the first place, right, what happens is that there is room for manipulation, that the case may be, right? So imagine if people take this subject of voting seriously, that look, if it's my personal life, if I fail today, I won't say because I failed today, I will not rise, right? So we'll take it like nation building is a serious business, that everyone will continue to put in their best to say, you know what, I'm selfless in this process, and let's look at the criteria for leadership. So you have people who are sharing with the young people in the communities. Look at the criteria that you can see in a good leader, right? This and that, and why it is important for them to make that kind of decision. Now, that is not happening. You know why that is not happening? The guys who are even good, the good guys, so-called good guys, right, are not even interested, because they have given hope. They have lost hope. Yeah? And, leaders are dealers in hope. In a country that must make progress, everyone must take it personal.
And this is an irony, because the current government says it's a government of renewed hope. But the context of this conversation is 64 years of independence, or since independence, right? And it would seem that successive years or successive leaders have not been able to properly inspire hope in people, either by their actions or inactions. So when we say leadership or leaders in Nigeria, we're basically talking president, the state governors, and the local government chairman. That's what it is. And if we were to look at the FAC allocation, so maybe apportion responsibility, right? Federal government takes 52% of the allocation. So maybe we apportion 52% of the blame of leadership failure to federal government. State get, is it 26% or is it 24% or thereabouts of that? So they get that chunk, and then local governments get 20% of the allocation, right? I'm just using a crude, method to apportion responsibility, maybe not blame. But if you were to look at this leadership challenge in Nigeria and apportion responsibilities, who has dropped the ball and to what level, such that we're able to engage better and say, okay, local government, you take charge of 20% and do it well, or you have 20% of responsibility. States, you have 26%. Federal, you have 52%. Is that the same way you see us fixing this leadership problem, or another way entirely?
So if you look at it from the resources that is available for a government system to operate, we might be limiting the conversation, because the leader is a mobilizer of resources, right? So the leader would have the capacity to look beyond what oil money gives us, right? Who would look at the human beings that are in this country, that each person in Nigeria is not a liability. Each person has capacity to become much more and can produce a lot more, right? And the right type of investment. So we're looking at 7-star skills. So take for instance, the population of young people in this country right now. There are certain kind of investment I'm looking at. Yeah, 7-star skills in, say, technical skills, for instance. I want to see 7-star institutions that can compete with any other institution in the world, right? Producing the very best of young people as they are. The right type of skills in technology, the right kind of skills in oil and gas, the right 7-star skill in agriculture, the right 7-star skill in every segment of life's endeavor. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Such a way that we can export human capital in terms of 7-star skills to the rest of the world. So we train for skills, we train for the business of the skills, we train for the leadership capital of the skills, we train for, so you have comprehensive human beings in Nigeria. All of these young people who are on the street, the best of them in music. I want to see institutions that will produce music stars, right? 7-star. I want to see those types of technical skills that are missing. We can supply them to the rest of the world.
Now I get so if you drift.
Yes.
But my own question is, and we'll come to that point. You're talking human capital right now, not just the resources, oil money. But my question is basically, who is the most important leader in Nigeria?
Everyone is important, but the person who can drive this progress, the president of Nigeria, has capacity. Do you get what I mean? Based on his responsibility to actually throw the vision. The vision, I mean, everybody should be aligning to the big vision of the president. But the truth of the matter is that every state government is independent. The state governor is independent. The state governor, is supposed to basically, see his own entity as a country and gives it the required vision that it needs to grow. The local government as it is now, which I think I would, appreciate the president of the country for taking leadership to ensure that the local government right now are independent, in that context. And I want to see that through, whereby the governors will not have, that type of control.
Well,
even though that by proxy, that continues to be. But I want to see that local government chairman who will emerge, despite of the fact that the governors give them the opportunity to emerge and they maintain their independence in that context. The boldness to do that, that's leadership. So that at the end of the day, the resources that is sent to the local government areas, right, can deliver, to the people. And not just those resources. There are also non-state actors, non-political actors who have resources in their hands, who are from those local government areas, that if they see vision, a lot of them are big business people in those local government, for instance. Some of them are based overseas. Some of them are in London. Can they profile their very best and find human beings that can help them grow that system? It requires a lot of leadership. That's why I said to you that, no nation can make progress until people will sit down in a room, right, and begin to reinvent their leadership capacity and say, I know nothing. That I know nothing. Because we will arrive too soon in this country where, people stop learning, and they think they know it because they have been given political positions. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So what I'm saying to you is that both the president of the country, the state governors and the local government chairman, and the National Assembly, the state national assemblies, the National Assembly in itself, Senate, the House of Representatives, leadership has been bestowed upon them to play the role that they have to play, including judiciary. So
do we have the best crop of, and this is leading somewhere.
Yes.
One, if that's the scale of importance, pardon me to use that term, from what you've seen, do we have the very best in those positions?
So,
what percentage would you give it? And then, why have they not been, whether or not they are the best in that position, they are in that position. So what is the number one factor that they're not performing as they ought to? So first, the first question is that, even I've almost forgotten my questions now. The first question is, Oh, goodness me. But I hope you caught that drift, right? So you can go ahead and respond.
So my thinking right now, if I begin to do the metrics, to say, all I know is that right now there's a lot of deficit of leadership capital.
Oh, yes. Do we have the very best of the best there?
Yes.
What's the percentage?
Yes.
I froze for a moment.
I'm telling you at the moment, there's a lot of deficit of leadership capital across board, specifically.
So is it 50%? 10%?
Basically, I can't give that figure at the moment, but the point I'm trying to let you know is that only very few, in terms of measuring it, because the only way you can measure that is results. Do you get what I mean? Leadership is not something you explain about. Leadership is results. The more leaders, push forward and generate results, basically, then you can measure. So if I were to even advise the Nigerians right now, I can say, you know what, let's give benefit of doubt right now and say there's a 4-year tenure, right, for each of these leaders. Right? The pressure that we are putting is that we want to see that they all begin to stretch like never before in order to be able to accomplish the vision that we're looking at. And if after 4 years we don't see results, what will be the responsibility of Nigerians? Nigerians will be able to go to the polls and say this is exactly what we want. And I'm sure in your heart you're thinking, oh, I'm talking ideal. Ideal, right? But the point on ground is that if everyone in Nigeria can rise up to their leadership responsibilities, right, and people focus on the goal and they make the right judgments, do you understand what I'm talking about? We'll be able to know we will not take this anymore or we can take this anymore. That's the point I'm trying to make. And so can we all, even at this point in time, have what we call leadership judgment and the leadership language? Do you know that a lot of us no longer believe in this country as a result of failed expectations? Is that correct? As over the years, people have just been failing them, promising and not delivering. So people are tired. I don't blame them for being tired. And yet, it is a leader's responsibility to now say, I will, do everything I can to make sure that the people see results. And when the people see the results, maybe their lost hope cannot begin to get reignited again as a result of that. But no amount of conversations, no amount of talk can actually, deal with the issue of non-results. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, and if this country must work, there also be a time when we'll begin to ask all those who occupy public political leadership in this country at whatever levels that, look, they must now begin to think legacy. They must think legacy, that after they are off power, right, would they be remembered?
And I'd like you to speak to that, but let me put it in context by, pardon me, puncturing your initial optimism about, what this administration seems to be doing by ensuring now that funds will go directly to local government. Perhaps we can begin to see some results of leadership at the grassroots. Right after that, we've seen local government elections, being conducted fast-paced, campaigns here and there. But the ruling parties are sweeping victory at these polls, which speaks to what could happen in the short term. We haven't seen that yet, but the projection is that these subnationals, the executives, the state executives will yet again wield the needless control over local government funds, either directly or indirectly. So speaking of legacy now, how do we deal with that bandwagon of effect of people who genuinely assume leadership and want to serve, but when they get, into those positions of authority, a certain realization dawns on them and everybody wants to make quick, selfish gains, while they are there. So how do we deal with that bandwagon effect?
So, at this point in time, really, my advice as a leadership coach will be, if somebody seeks to occupy political office, right, the person must, at any point in time, think in the context of legacy. What will be my legacy? And guess what? History never forgets, right? If the political leader goes to lead and he decides to think long term, forget second term. Second term is not his thinking. He's thinking, how can I help the people today to be the best that they can? Now, let me tell you the truth. If they deliver on that commitment, the people will never forget them. It's a life opportunity to be president, to be governor, to be local government chairman. And these things are tenured, right? Now, it is a question of legacy. You do your job well, serve the people, forget personal interests. You do the best that you can. History will put you in a context in the heart of the people.
What if I
I
want to leave a legacy,
yes,
but I'm experiencing pressure from those who ensured that I got there in the first place, who are demanding certain things of me, and I must, dance to their tune if I must retain that position.
So everything falls, like I said, is on the back of the leader. The responsibility of decision, to make the right decision, the judgment, is on the table of the leader. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So the leader will make that choice to say, am I to satisfy the people who do not want the interests and the progress of the people? If I do that, I sabotage myself. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Because at the end of the day, my name will be in mud. That's the truth of the matter. So that's why we're saying that the leader has a responsibility to sack those that have to be sacked, if he must perform. Do you understand what I'm talking about? The responsibility is in the leader's table. So if you're a political leader and you want to leave a legacy, my advice, to be very honest with you, I hear what the people say on the streets. People are dissatisfied. You don't need to. People are not happy. Most people are not happy. So if you want to make things happen, think long term, think legacy. And once you are thinking legacy, then you would be able to find the right minds, the right capacities and competencies, the right human beings, whatever they are. Even some of them might not even belong to political parties. In the real sense of it, you will realize that you can find people who are passionate about this country and who have the capacity and competencies to drive progress, both at all levels of government. That's what I'm saying.
So let me bring this home now, right? And I'll give you a real example of this. Now, it's one thing for the leader to want to do stuff. Now, I should say I'm not holding brief for a majority of the leaders, political leaders. A lot of them have dropped the ball severally. And now, this case, there was a group of people that came together for a community and said, you know what, let's put legacy on ground, okay? For this local government election, let's come together, do some sort of debate, right? Let us hear from the local government candidates. Let ideas contend rather than the usual thing. And all of a sudden, word started spreading. And people started saying, you know what, rather than organize this debate, how about we get the money together, share it, and use it to buy food because people are hungry. Real life. So there is the push for getting legacy, doing things the right way, and ensuring the very best emerges. And the people who will vote who that thing is meant to work in favor of say, you know what, no, that's not what we want. What we want is food. And you have politicians saying that on a daily basis. You have people trooping into their homes and saying, I want to get married. Your wife just gave birth. And it's like, no, it's not my wife, it's your wife that gave birth. All of those issues come up. Again, I'm not holding brief, and this is no excuse for politicians dropping the ball or engaging in corruption, graft, and the rest. But this is a real situation. The people seem to sometimes want something different when the politicians are thinking, let's do legacy. Voting, for example, pardon me, recent elections, there was a lot of vote buying. And it was hard to see people saying, no, we don't want your money, okay? We are going to vote for who we want to vote for. People thought, you know what, since this is what we get, let us get it. If you're not giving me money, I'm not voting for you. So how do you
I'm glad the particular local government you're talking about, I have first-class knowledge about what transpired. And I know the private sector individual who initiated that drive, specifically. And he was pained that it didn't work. Do you understand what I'm talking about? But the point I'm making is this, right? What we have failed to do is that we have not provided the right investment to educate those young people in the communities. If we're able to educate them correctly on what their responsibilities are and what leadership capital is, we will be able to make the big difference in the kind of decisions that they make. So what has happened is that the type of deprivations those young people have faced over time had made them so dependent on their political class for their daily survival. So as a result of that, most of them can't take decisions on their own. So what needs to be liberated is their minds. You understand what I'm talking about? Mind liberation, mind transformation. And I tried it. When I ran for governor in Imo State, I tried it. I did a lot of investment in the minds of the young people. And I saw a lot of young people take the right decisions despite of the pressure. It is possible for young people. Our young people are not stupid. They are not fools. It's just that those who have capital, capacity, the businessmen and women around those communities, right, who have capacities, they should focus on the development of those young people. They should not allow those young people in the hands of just the political class.
The challenge now
I'm telling you.
The challenge is we're now using, we're not going the normal routes. Now, education, all of that should be at the table of the politicians, right? Electoral education is at the table of the Electoral Commission and the politicians, the political parties. So basically what we're doing is we are telling them, don't worry, keep neglecting your job, we'll do it for you. You get what I'm saying? So that essentially encourages them to keep not doing their job.
Absolutely. There are a lot of people who have capacity, who are billionaires in communities, who are wealthy in communities. What do they give to these people? Food. Short-term things that cannot impact them. I have had opportunities where some great political leaders, they got young people from their local governments and they sent to our leadership center in Abuja for 2 days. Where the time we're done with these young people for 2 days, for the first time, I saw their eyes open up. I saw young people see themselves beyond what some politicians see them as. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So what we're talking about is not education in the context of just head work. We're talking about the right leadership education, the right mindset transformation programs that will show to young people who they are, the possibilities of what they could become if they can delay gratification and take the right decision. So we don't wait until election comes before we start educating them because they'll think it's political. We have to create systems like that. And I'm ready to work with any businessman or any top leader in the communities who want to spend resources in reinventing the minds of their young people. I tell you the truth, beyond that, those rich people can also set up 7-star institutions within their communities. So they are dealing with 2 things. The stomach infrastructure that is important by giving them the skills. The skills, private capital, can be invested in setting up local institutions that are 7-star that can help young people become tilers that are top-level tilers. Whatever skill you want from the community level that can help them even in the value chain of agriculture, help them gain certain skills that they can earn from. So when they begin to earn from their own skill, then that stomach infrastructure thing politicians normally come with, at the end of the day, they won't find it very important because they can feed from. So we need a double approach to it. While you are presenting them, give them 7-star skill. I want that type to happen. People can come together, non-political actors can come together, 4 or 5 of them, 10 of them in a community, and say, let's do something specific.
Then make them the local government chairman. And since there's a local government chairman who's not performing, make the people who are doing the work the chairman. Make them the ones in charge, the political leaders, rather than having a figurehead.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So what we're talking about is that we can create wealth in our communities by virtue of our quality thinking.
Right.
So what I'm saying is possible. But when we now begin to throw everything, political class, what about if a man cannot give what he does not have?
And I guess it also speaks to the need for those who are equipped mentally as well, to take up the challenge, to be in political positions.
And those who are ready, those who have competencies, those who have capacity should not be afraid.
Are you ready for governor again?
Right now, my focus is building a 7-star leadership institution that will help shape the future of our great country.
Right.
And that's where, if you ask me, investment for leadership development is important. The quality of the minds of the people.
Right.
We can't let it down anymore.
And that's another, service that is in deficit. Well, it's a huge conversation, but we must anchor at this point. And thank you very much, Mr. Linus Okorie, founder, Guardian of Nations International, and leadership consultant. Thank you so much for coming through at this very critical time.
Thank you.
And up next, we will still be placing the leadership test on another sector, the leadership test, current leadership test, and of course, the test for individuals who are in that sector as well. What are the results we're seeing, and how can we experience increased results? Stay with us for that conversation. We'll be right back.